Penalties for not complying with FACTA are pretty stiff. So like the other forms for not reporting foreign corporations and stuff like that, $10,000 failure to file. If the IRS tells you, hey, we think you should have filed this and you didn't file it, and you really should have filed it, then the penalty can go up to $50,000. Again, unlimited statute of limitations if you didn't file it. They can come back at any time and say, hey, we're going to audit you because you didn't file this form. And this is the big one, 40% penalty based on the underpayment of tax. So whatever, if you should have paid $10,000 in tax on whatever it was that you failed to report, you're going to pay a $4,000 penalty in addition to the tax. So the IRS is pretty serious about it. And I don't know if you guys have started getting like W-9s and W-8s from your foreign banks asking for your U.S. Social Security number. I know a lot of people have. So as part of this FACTA reporting, the U.S. is requiring a lot of foreign banks who choose to participate, most of the larger ones are participating, to report information on their U.S. clients. And so a lot of people have started getting like W-9s from foreign banks saying, hey, we want your Social Security number. We want to know that you're a U.S. citizen because we have to report this stuff to the U.S. The threshold for whether or not you have to report is $10,000, and it's aggregate. So if you have like a Giro account and a savings account, and you have 5,000 in one and 6,000 in the other, combined it's 11,000, you have to report both of them because the aggregate's more than 10,000. We have a lot of situations where you'll have one spouse is American, the other one's Austrian, no green card, no nothing, and they'll have a joint account. And you'll have to report that your Austrian spouse is a joint owner of this account with you. And a lot of times the Austrian spouse is not real thrilled about it, but unfortunately, it is what it is. I mean, that's the law. Just because you live abroad, you're still subject to the U.S. gift tax laws. So the U.S. imposes a gift tax. You can give away $13,000 a year, tax-free, to any number of people that you want. So I could give, if I was really generous, I could give $13,000 to each one of you. There's no tax. If you go over the $13,000, then it starts eating into your lifetime gift tax exclusion, which at the present is $5 million, which means you can give away up to $5 million tax-free. But also, if you go over the $13,000, you have to file a gift tax return, Form 709. And then after this year, it goes back down to $1 million. There's this $5 million exclusion. It was only for last year and this year. Likewise, we have a very generous reduced gift tax rate of 35% last year and this year. Next year, it goes back up to the highest rate of 55% for gifts that are made over the $5 million threshold this year, $1 million threshold next year. Usually, gifts between spouses in the U.S. are tax-free. So you can give an unlimited amount of money between spouses. If your spouse is not a citizen, that's not true. If your spouse is not a citizen, even if they have a green card, you can only give $134,000 a year tax-free. So even if you owned, let's say, a piece of property in Austria, and you wanted to give your spouse half of the property, you can only give $134,000 a year tax-free to a non-U.S. citizen. The estate tax is very similar to the gift tax. You get a $5 million estate tax exclusion for this year. Next year it goes down to $1 million. And then the estate tax rate is 35% this year, goes all the way up to 55% next year. If your spouse becomes a citizen before and moves to the U.S., they have to live in the U.S. from the time of death until the estate tax return is filed and become American in that time. And if they do that, they can inherit tax-free. We get calls all the time. I haven't filed, or I filed my returns, but I didn't file my F-bars, or I filed it wrong, or whatever. File. If you filed wrong, amend and correct it. Because like we were talking about, If they catch you, the monetary penalties are high. If they think it's intentional that you did it wrong, criminal penalties could apply. And remember that the statute doesn't close on this stuff anymore if you didn't file some of this stuff. So they can come back 10 years from now if they found out about it. So it's best to get it fixed. If it's not filed, file it, get that statute running so you don't have anything to worry about. Will there be a penalty to pay? Normally speaking, if you go back and correct the error, the IRS is not going to assess a penalty. I have not seen it happen in any case where somebody has gone back and fixed something or filed something that they hadn't filed and had the IRS assess a penalty. Where the IRS gets aggravated is when they find out about it and have to come to you and say, hey, what's going on with this? Then they assess penalties. And then a lot of people say, well, how's the IRS going to find out about the account I have in Austria? And the answer is FACTA. Before, they maybe wouldn't have found out, but with all this new foreign bank account reporting under the FATCA legislation that the foreign banks are starting to have to comply with, that's how they're going to find out. And so definitely if there's anything that's not in compliance, I would suggest getting it into compliance because chances are the IRS will find out.